Welcome to On the Point Podcast, a podcast for all things Overwatch with a heavy focus on League, discussing roster moves, weekly matchups, and opening weekend, brought to you by Cheez-Its Break Time. Crunch Time.
Yeah.
Crunch Time.
Crunch Time by Cheez-Its
Crunch
Grooves.
Time by Cheez-Its Grooves.
Yeah,
oh my god.
I personally know the person who is like in charge of all of the production teams.
Oh no.
And I know she was at LA personally. And
oh no.
it's one of those things where knowing her sense of humor, I can't decide whether she would find the next time I see her giving her a thing of Cheetos Grooves, if she would find that funny or if she would be really angry.
Do it.
Probably both.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Let's be real. Next week's homestand in Philadelphia, I will be gobsmacked if there aren't t-shirts and or signs with Cheez-Its.
Oh, there has to be, yeah.
Honestly, I think, you know what, we'll get into this when we start talking about it, because I actually put something on here to talk about Cheez-Its,
Yes, yeah.
and I have a marketing strategy as to what Cheez-Its should actually do with their newfound meme lord popularity.
Oh, yeah.
But for now, I'm Katie, and I'm the support main.
I'm CJ, I'm the tank main.
And we're back on our bullshit.
Yeah, we're back into the swing of things. Last week we did our Atlantic Division roster impressions, and now we're going to be looking at the Pacific Division rosters before we get into the results from last week's matches. Although to a certain extent, it's going to come up here, considering some of these teams played.
Yeah, these aren't going to be blind impressions for
No.
3-4 of these teams.
No, yeah, there's going to be some of these where we have some opportunity to look at results. And
Almost the entire the whole West Division had at least one match over the weekend.
I mean,
so
it's Dallas. They're
That's
Pacific
true.
West. All right, so Pacific Division East, we're starting off with the Chengdu Hunters. We have mostly a returning team. We have, in the tank role, Eamon, Ating, Late Young. They're all returning. We have Bacon Jack, Jinmu, Leave. Oh yeah, Elsa's tank as well. Sorry, it's been a hot minute since I've looked at this roster. Yeah.
I think I got them backwards from last time. I put DPS tank support.
Yeah,
Have I fucked you up?
A little bit. And then at the end...
That's what happens when you let me put the document together.
I'm sorry I was at work.
So was I.
Anyway, and on support, Kyo, Yveltal, Molly, and Lengsa.
I know Lengsa at least is new. I think
Molly
might be as well.
Molly's new as well, and so is Ating.
Ating.
Their three I don't know too much about, honestly.
And what I find interesting about this roster is the other Chinese teams were able to leave China for the coronavirus outbreak. Mm-hmm. Chengdu was not.
Yeah.
Everyone else had their passports because for the most part they were Korean or otherwise not Chinese players, and Chengdu is pretty much all Chinese players. Yep. And they did not have their passports and were not able to leave the country.
Yeah,
So with the homestands being canceled, I'm not sure what we're going to do with one of our teams not able to travel.
Yeah, this complicates matters immensely. I don't want to speculate too much on this right now just because it's a matter of,
It's bigger than Overwatch League.
Yeah, this is politics and World Health Organization stuff. We'll, report on this more as details become available, because right now we know that all the Chinese homestands have been canceled, but we don't know what's necessarily going to take their place, because as it stands right now, the Shanghai Dragons aren't playing a match until week 6 with the homestands canceled.
Woof. Is that the same for what's crazy is I saw that Chengdu is definitely scheduled to play before then in Seoul.
Yeah, it's a matter of will they be able to get in?
Will they be able to get out?
Yes. Two sides of the same coin, really. It all kind of hinges on the coronavirus.
There's always the option to do a LAN match, which I'm sure no one will be happy with, but it's there. They can also do the other Chinese teams who were able to leave China and travel and then have Chengdu play later.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's a lot of possible solutions, none that are really great.
Yeah.
So for the moment, let's just focus on the roster. I'll be real with you. There's a lot of things I like about this roster and a lot of things that I'm not sure about. The biggest thing in my mind is, one, I don't know too much about the 3 new players, so I can't speculate a tremendous amount on that. I think this team suffers a lot from losing RUI. He was their head coach. He was the head coach for Miraculous Youngster, which was the best team in China for a very long time before Overwatch League. He was Chengdu's coach throughout Season 1. He was China's coach in the World Cup for 2 years. He's a really, really good coach. And I don't know how this team is going to, handle itself under someone else's guidance.
Did he retire or go somewhere else?
Retire.
Oh.
Yeah, he's had a long history of leaving teams for just various reasons. A lot of one thing was health stuff, another was just mental stress. He left Shanghai just because Shanghai was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So, looking at the front line, we have Eamon, who, of course, the Giga Chad. Yep. Yeah, the Yada Chad meme lord on the Wrecking Ball. We have Elsa and Late Young on off tank. We have Ating as another main tank. This is a question mark for me just because I don't think Elsa and Late Young are kind of at the absolute top level in terms of the off tanks we have in the league. I think that they're middle to lower end of the pack in terms of just individual skill.
I feel like in terms of off tank, just from what we've seen, you're either way up in the top tier or I hesitate to say not worth talking about, but you're not making the difference on your team that you should be.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a large gap in the middle there.
Yeah, off tank, especially in a meta, like right now, Diva's a big thing.
Yeah.
And with Diva, one of the things that makes Diva useful is your ability to kind of be Johnny on the spot with the defense matrix and with the new buff to your boosters. It's allowing you to hunt down people that are kind of raining damage from the back. It lets you get up in position to eat enemy ultimates. And basically, Diva's biggest strength in terms of her kit is being able to put herself in the right place to be effective at the right time.
So T-minus 4 weeks until she gets nerfed?
I'm not sure.
I'm joking. It's probably going to happen, but Anyway, so you need a good, solid Diva player on your team if you want to keep up with the likes of Choi.
Yeah, and I don't think they're bad players. It's just I didn't rate them super highly compared to other...
No, Hylie's on another team. I had to. I saw my opportunity and I took it.
Yeah, well, so is Super, and you missed that opportunity. Anyway, Ating, I don't really know how he's going to do. Eamon's Reinhardt has historically been pretty weak, with the exception of the one match against Vancouver where he achieved Super Saiyan status. The DPS line on this team is awesome.
Bacon Jack.
Yeah, Bacon Jack and Jinmu are awesome. They have incredible pop-off potential. Kind of suicidal sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Leave is a fucking god, and I'm very excited to see him in Overwatch League now. Like, you saw what he did at World Cup when he basically hadn't been playing Overwatch competitively for a year. He still crapped on everybody.
See, and I'm just really excited to see Chengdu play again because they, for me, were one of the highlights of Season 2. Yeah. Because in a season of mostly goats, having them come in and just be like, I do what I want, and it being unbelievably entertaining. And I mean, a matter of necessity because they didn't have Jakirin, but still.
Yeah.
It was so much fun to watch because they are so completely off the wall in what they choose to do. And I'm very excited to see that happen again. And I hope they keep that same completely batshit insane energy.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they will to a certain extent. Kyo and Yveltal, I'm pretty sure they'll stay the starting support duo. They're very good. I'm, content that they will not hinder the team's performance. Basically, I think it comes down to the coaching and just the ability to keep this team, functioning well. I think RUI makes a big difference, and not having him could hurt them. in this situation, basically their DPS has such incredible pop-off potential that I think you can rely on them to carry a lot of fights. It's going to be whether or not the front line is kind of able to hang. Basically, if the team can play together well enough to give them the opportunity to do what they need to do, that's going to be the big thing.
Well, we'll have to see. Most of these players are proven already in the league, so
yeah,
that's one up on what a lot of the other teams are coming in with.
It's true. However, Guangzhou Charge, next team up, they also have a lot of returning players, and I'm a lot more bullish on their new additions. Rio and Krong up in the front line. On DPS, you have Eileen, Happy, and Nero. And on the support line, you have Chara, Shu, I don't know if it's YWA or Waya or whatever, and then you have Neptuno moving over from Philadelphia Fusion. Krong is a new pickup from a Korean contenders team called O2 Blast. He is a very, very good off-tank, and I think he'll be a really good partner with Rio, who I think is a pretty competent main tank to begin with. I think you've got a very strong front line there. You've got a very scary DPS lineup in Eileen, Happy, and Nero. And then you've got a rock-solid backline with Chara, Shu, Neptuno. I don't know as much about Waya.
See, and I'm wondering if they will swap out either Kara or Shu for Neptuno, because Neptuno is basically the murder mercy, isn't he?
Yeah. I think it depends also, like, Chara historically, if what I'm remembering is right, has been one of their shot callers, whereas...
Oh.
Yeah, so we'll see how Neptuno fits into this squad. I think he might be a mechanical upgrade over Chara, but... we'll see what basically their experimentation with their lineup over the course of their scrims and boot camps has led them to do. I think Guangzhou has made upgrades, and I think they've got a good chance to perform well.
Because it's a chunk of time until we see them play as well, correct? Possibly until Seoul?
Yeah, it could be with all the cancellations. I'll admit I'm not as up on the schedule with all the changes that have happened.
It's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, especially given I have a full-time job again.
Yay!
Yes, it's very nice, but it's also less time to keep track of other things.
Yeah.
Up next is the Hangzhou Spark, which is more or less the same team.
Yeah.
On the front line, you have Gushui, Ria, and Sasin. Your DPS line, you have Adora, Godsby, and Bazzi on the two-way. And you have your original backline of IDK and Bebe with the new additions of Coldest and Mika.
Do we know much about Coldest or Mika?
Yes, they are from Billy Gaming, which is...
What a great name.
Yeah. Well, the parent company of Hangzhou is Billy.
That's true.
So yeah, it's Hangzhou's academy team. I don't know as much about Mika, but Coldest has been making waves for a very long time. He has incredible stats. He's a lethal Zenyatta, and has pretty much just performed very, very well in pretty much every situation he's been put in.
Okay. It'll be fun to see another Jonak running around.
Yeah. I think I could see Coldest starting over Bebe. I don't know if... no. I forget. IDK is the flex support, right? He's the one who plays Zen.
IDK.
For fuck's sake.
I don't actually know, but again, I could not pass that up.
No, I
it's was more too
because
easy.
It was more because I looked this up before you got here, and it's just fallen out of my head.
But yeah, for the most part, we're not seeing a lot of new people on. So far, most of the Chinese teams, they've kept with their lineups, and they have brought on a couple of new ones.
Yeah, and honestly, I like this approach for a lot of these teams because a lot of them performed well and have a decent core to build off of, and I think that's the case here.
And let's be real, the London approach is kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and it's hard to get a read on where they're at right now considering their results. they looked really good in their first game and significantly weaker in the second.
Yeah, and this was such a weird weekend in terms of quality and rankings.
Okay, so I did have it right. I could see Coldest and IDK being a very good backline.
Okay.
Up next, Seoul Dynasty. Again, a team that is largely unchanged except for a couple new additions. So, we start off with the new frontline options of Michelle, Marvel, Gesture.
They've had Marvel since last season, yes?
Yes, Michelle and Marvel kind of became their go-to frontline.
Okay.
You have on DPS Fitz, Illicit, and Profit.
Question mark, Profit.
Yeah.
You gotta.
I know. And then Toby, Creative, and Bedosin in your backline.
Creative, I don't recognize.
He's... I don't see him starting over Toby or Bedosin.
Nah, not gonna be Creative. You missed me.
Not this.
You missed me. You missed me.
Anyway.
It's part of the package. Come on.
Anyway, frontline, we have Marvel and Michelle. They have existing synergy. Basically, I think the main tank position with Marvel and Gesture is very strong. I think Michelle, again, I don't think he's necessarily up to snuff against the more top-tier main off-tanks. I think he is weaker than either of his main tank partners, whichever one ends up playing. DPS, I think, has a similar sort of spottiness to it in that Fitz and Illicit, like, they performed decently for Seoul last season, but I never was blown away by it. I don't really remember. There was never a star-making performance for them.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they performed competently, but against the really good guys, they were outgunned. If Seoul had kept Fleta and you had the DPS possibility of Fleta Profit, I'd be like, buy me a ticket on the Seoul hype train right now. But with just Profit and then one less powerful DPS partner, I don't know how that's going to go.
Is it going to be a matter of team synergy, or is it going to be a matter of hopefully Profit can pop off a lot?
Yeah, that's a question. And in the backline, we have Toby, Creative, and Bedosin. Bedosin, I have no reservations about. Toby, aside from the match against Dallas, his star really hasn't been as bright as it once was, and we'll see if he's can perform up to the level they need him to, or if, maybe his time is sort of passing.
Oof. And Creative is a question mark.
Yeah, so basically what this comes down to is they have one or two really good people in each spot, but basically the other half, I think, is going to let them down. I could see them doing the double tank sort of start with Gesture and Marvel, the double main tank thing we saw in the previous weekend, and then have Profits and either Fitz or Illicit depending on the match, and then Toby and Bedosin. I could see Michelle being swapped in, but I think that the double main tank setup is a little stronger for them. And the thing is, so Gesture and Profit, having them together is a good thing because basically they were the carries of London working together. They make stuff happen as a duo. And so the difficulty is London is a team that had ridiculous individual skill, but they were never the cleanest team or the most strategically, well-prepared team. They would either be able to out-frag their enemies and just be able to just, when they're on, they just outgun people, and when they're not, they get outplayed as a unit.
They got by on being good, which is why the rivalry with NYXL was so interesting, because NYXL is both good and strategic.
Well, and the other thing was, coming into the league, the team that would become the core of London, GC Busan, won Apex and beat out the team that would become the Seoul Dynasty and Lunatic High. But the thing is, the three teams, well, there were four teams in conversation to potentially go all the way at the start of it. And it was Lunatic High, who becomes the Seoul Dynasty, GC Busan, who becomes London, Vancouver Titans forebears in Runaway, and then you have LW Blue, which is what became the NYXL. And the thing is, that roster was the first one picked up as a whole for the Overwatch League, so they dropped out of the tournament, and we never got to see that matchup happen.
Ah.
So, yeah, it was a question of how would GC Busan and LW Blue have done in a clash, because LW Blue was a team that, well, in NYXL fashion, made it really far, looked very strong, and then just petered out at the end.
So they basically kept up tradition.
Yes.
New name, same engine.
But same players.
Woof.
So, yeah, it's one of those things where if Profit and Gesture can click with this team and everyone can enable each other, I think they have a really good chance of doing this. If not, I could see them being really streaky and win when Profit and Gesture help them pop off, and then struggle when they don't.
I mean, they were pretty streaky last season, too.
Well, that's been a problem with Seoul historically, is their roster has been very uneven.
They also hung their star on Fissure, which we're starting to realize may not be the most consistent star to hang things on.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, that Seoul had a problem of, conflicting shot caller personalities, in that you had Jexay and Fissure. You had sort of a lot of new pieces to integrate, and
they had 12 players, which is big for a team.
Yeah, they experimented a ton with that roster before they kind of figured out what started to work for them near the end.
I will say that when they pulled out the full roster swap at halftime was amazing.
Yeah, and it worked really well. It's just...
It worked well for a map, but I think it was still... Was it the Spark that they were playing against?
Well, the thing is, they did that pretty consistently afterwards as well.
I just remember the first time where it worked for a map, but then the other team still won.
Yeah. So, yeah, I could see Seoul either falling into the same pattern that they have in previous seasons, or doing really well. It depends how well that they integrate these new pieces, and if the other pieces that I don't rate as highly can sort of pick up the... I
told you, highly somewhere else.
Shut the fuck up.
You
got it in once.
I regret nothing.
I know. I'm doing the regretting for both of us.
Yay! Thank you.
So, yeah, I think that there's a big spread as to where they could kind of come in terms of their performance. So, Shanghai Dragons. This is a team that I have a lot more hope for.
This is a team where I have one specific hope for them, goddammit.
Yeah. On the front line, we have Stand 1, Fearless, Geggery, and Void. In the DPS position, we have Dia on a 2-way contract, then DM, Ding, Fleta, and Lip. And then in the backline, you have Luffy, Izayaki, and Lee Jae-gon.
I know Lee Jae-gon is brand new to the league.
He is from Runaway, the roster that picked up right where the old one left off, and then won Korean contenders in their first tournament as a team.
Nice.
Yeah, and Lee Jae-gon, their support line was absolutely nutty to begin with. Both of them performed really well, and Lee Jae-gon, I think I could see him coming in over Luffy as the main support. He's a great Lucio, very good at getting his team where they need to be, at displacing other people. I think he's a great pickup, and I think he'd be a good partner with Izayaki.
And we've seen Izayaki on the Valiant, and he is a solid secondary support.
Yeah, definitely. I think that as a duo, if they are in sync, they're very strong. Yeah. The front line is where that sort of the question marks kind of come in a little bit. I think Stand 1 played on Gladiators Legion. He also was a sub for Team Envy during the Gauntlet. So a lot of people have pointed out that he's never been on a team that performed super well, but I still watching his performance in those games, I think that he was one of the better pieces in that situation. So I think he's better than people are giving him credit for. Fearless, I haven't really been following him since he went back down to Contenders at the end of season 1.
I just really need them to play Geggery.
Yeah.
They played her very, very little last season, to the point where I was honestly wondering for this team if they were only keeping her because they knew that a number of fans would follow her specifically wherever she went. Still the only female player in the league, which is, again, still a problem, guys. Yeah. But that's also a very large systemic problem that we're not going to solve overnight.
Yeah.
If they don't play her, if they just keep her on again to be a bench warmer and to kind of be the trophy mascot, whatever person, I'm going to flip my shit at Shanghai.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
She's very skilled, too.
She is. She absolutely is. And I think one of the things is, I think on a mechanical level, Void is a better diva, but here's the thing that I think gives Geggery an edge that makes things interesting, is that she's a good Orisa as well. So hypothetically, on a map where you want compositional flexibility to be able to swap between the double main tank and then the Reinhardt diva, I think Geggery's great in there because she can do both.
And I think we said last season that her stats were, season 1, her stats were middle of the pack when her team was bottom of the barrel, which says a lot about her.
Yeah, I think she definitely is better than people give her credit for. I do think she has a place on this team. I've given my theory as to how that can happen with the current metagame. Whether or not they do that, I don't know.
And all I can say is either play her or trade her, goddammit.
Yeah. On DPS, I really don't need to say anything about this. This is
Shanghai wants the D.
Yeah, this is fucking terrifying. DM, Ding, and Fleta are all goddamn fraggers. Lip is competent. I don't think necessarily that like swapping him in will drag the team down, but I don't necessarily see a reason to put him in over these three unless you're pretty confident you're gonna win.
But I mean, DM, Ding, and Fleta is meta, so...
Yeah, absolutely. They cover all the bases. They're incredibly talented at the heroes in their pool, and as long as that front line gives them the space to work, these guys, I think, can really go toe-to-toe with just about anyone in the league.
We'll see if they're able to replicate, essentially, last season's run.
Yeah.
Stage 3 champions.
Yeah, and I think they have a lot of the pieces to make that happen. It's just, well, they did have a turnover in coaching staff. Blue Haas is not in charge anymore. I think they picked up Moon as their new head coach.
Okay.
Who is the Season 1 and early Season 2 coach for the Valiant.
Yes.
And he's someone who very much tries to get his team to play the meta, play it competently, like really drills an approach of like rock solid fundamentals is like his plan. All right, so that's the Eastern Division, and now we get into the Western Division, which
something West Coast, Best Coast.
Allegedly,
I'm
still a New Yorker.
Yeah. Look, I'm from Mountain Time Zone, and ain't nobody ever represents us. So until we get a Denver team, West Coast, Best Coast.
All right.
When we get a Denver team, I am switching all allegiances.
Fair enough.
If we get a Denver team.
So, going into the Western Division, we have the Dallas Fuel.
Ya boys.
Yes, my boys. In the front line, we have Note, Trill, and Gamsu. In the DPS position, we have AKM, Decay, and Doha. We have Harry Hook, Unko, Closer, and Crimzo, who is a late addition, being called up from Team Envy into the fold. So we got to see 2 games from them, and I honestly really like what I'm seeing.
Fucking Decay.
Oh yeah,
Holy actual hell! So, why did the Gladiators ever let him go?
Because he's expensive.
Yeah, but he kind of carried a lot.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, and you see like back when they signed him in Season 2, I talked Decay up big. This is why, because he was doing this shit in Apex.
And sadly we didn't get to see a lot of DPS from anyone in Season 2 because goats.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was batshit insane.
Yeah, Doha was also really strong. He was he's from Element Mystic, as well as one of their new coaches. So Doha kind of got outshined because Sparkle, but always a scary person that I think definitely kind of flew under the radar just because Sparkle was kind of the new heir apparent. Frontline, I think Gamsu's a great addition because one of the things this team has always kind of struggled with is an in-game leader, and Gamsu has been that on every team that he's been in. I think that Trill, also a very good main tank. I like them swapping him in for the double tank setup, but the issue was kind of called out by the casters. That basically, when you have Trill and Gamsu in that you're going to be taking on the double tank look, and when they have Note in, they can swap to the Diva or even the Sigma. So Note, really great Season 1 performance, and I think he started off Season 2 pretty well, and then really fell off hard in the second half. He looked rough in the first game when they played him. He got overextended and got picked off a few times, but he played it a lot tighter and played really well in the second game in their match against Shock. And honestly, like their match against Valiant and their match against Shock, the fuel really tightened up a lot of the issues that they had against. They just played a way better game against San Francisco. And if they can stay in that form, I think they have a potential to do really, really well. The thing is, though, staying in that form.
Not always easy.
No, it's not. And Dallas historically has had strong starts and then petered off really hard.
But that was with different lineups.
True.
We've got a number of new people.
Yeah, I think Closer and Crimzo are definitely better in their roles than Unko and Harry Hook. Like, Crimzo and Unko, I can definitely see them competing for the role. I think Closer is going to be the starter over Harry in most cases.
All right.
In pretty much all of them. As much as I love Harry, Closer is mechanically really, really good and has become a big part of this team's starting roster for a good while. Basically, yeah. I think this comes down to the coaching staff's ability to just prove the naysayers wrong. Like, when Arrow came in, Dallas picked up big time and then dropped off really hard. And a lot of the issues were the same over the course of that second season. I think I believe it's Yang is the new coach. He was a strategic coach for Element Mystic, which is, I think, one of the things this team needs. Because Arrow is someone who is more about creating a system than he is necessarily an in-game strategist himself. Well, the thing is, a lot of coaches have different strengths.
And I mean, it's good to have a system, but you also have to be able to think on the fly.
Yeah.
Because people have been, even in just this opening weekend, we've seen some very creative plays.
Yeah, and that was a problem that Dallas had previously, was they'd come in with a good game plan and then, do well for a map or two with it. And then once it got countered, they'd fall apart.
No plan survives first contact with the enemy.
Mm-hmm. Especially against a team like the Shock, who is so adaptive.
Who just don't even care, man. They are in it to destroy the world.
They're so adaptive. They are really able to just come up with solutions on the fly to like any problem that you throw at them.
Yeah.
Basically, if they can keep up this form. Basically, I think on a roster level, they have plugged a lot of the big holes. If Note can perform well, they have a really good off-tank. If Trill and Gamsu can keep doing what they're doing, they have very solid main tanks. You have terrifying players in Decay and Doha, and AKM, who you can definitely swap in meta-dependent situations, and he's a scary guy too. As well as sort of a veteran perspective who can help people develop and offer genuine insight the same way that Harry Hook and Unko can, even if they're on the bench. Basically, I think this roster on just a skill level has fixed the holes that were in Dallas fuels on-field presence, and it's up to the coaching to help them deliver to their full potential. If they can do that, this team has the potential to genuinely make a pretty deep push. If not,
second verse, same as the first, a little bit louder and a little bit worse.
I don't think it's going to be as bad, but just because I think this is genuinely a team with a lot more firepower.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to know how to use that.
Yeah. So, there's hope.
Yeah, I think so. Up next, the LA Gladiators.
My boys.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of new boys.
Yeah. Wait, is Bishu back with the Gladiators?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah, I wound up making... Season 1, I got a Bishu Bomb shirt. That was one of the shirts they were giving away. And Season 2, I was like, well, can't really wear this to games anymore. And then they brought him back, and I was like, yes, it's accurate again. My Sub in Tasumi one isn't, but that's okay. Yeah. It's not going to stop me from wearing it. It's very comfortable. Yeah. But yeah, no, they got Bishu back. I don't think they played him, but they got him back. And I think once they get him back in rotation, like, one of his big things was being able to translate on the fly.
Yes, Though, honestly, I think that they didn't really seem to need it, judging by how they played in this. So, front line, we have OG and LH Cloudy, and then on the off tank, we have Space and Bishu.
Space!
I love that line so much.
I can't not. Can I go to the Gladiators one and just have a sign that's just Tim Curry? That's all.
The one place that has not been ruined by capitalism. Space! And then he's just like, he's corpsing during the line.
Oh, he's dying laughing. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So, front line, this is one of the scariest front lines in the league on just a pound-for-pound talent level. OG, I think, now that he's on a team that everything meshes with him, has a lot of star potential. Space, we know how good he is. Same with Bishu. Though I think Space is the stronger of the two, and I think he'll start more often. LH Cloudy, I think people underrated him. I definitely think that Paris let go of the wrong main tank.
Ooh.
I mean, not to give too much shade to Ben Best, because he did perform better than I thought he would.
Paris as a whole performed better than we thought they would.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get into that. But LH Cloudy went toe-to-toe with Fisher, who looked to be on his shit, and traded blows with him pretty evenly. Like, he got the edge sometimes, Fisher got the edge sometimes. He looked like he was in perfect step. I think Birdring looks reinvigorated on this team.
I don't think we ever went through the full list. I think we just stopped to talk about the tanks.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm just going through the thing now. I'm doing it, yeah. I think Birdring looks reinvigorated on this team. I think you've kind of gotten to see a lot of the, basically the hype that people had for him coming into, like, Season 1. Because he played like this all the time in Korean Contenders / Apex. He was just in Apex. Korean Contenders wasn't really a thing when he got,
Apex then.
Mira and Jaru looked good. It's just a question of, will they continue to perform at this level? Shaz, Big Goose, we know how good they are. Paintbrush, we haven't really seen him do much yet. But
he did play a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But very small sample size. I rate him... you're going to make the fucking joke again. I think he's a good player. I'm not going to say it.
Look, I got one more in me because comedic rule of threes, and then after that, I'm out.
I'm not going to give it...
But now you've set it up, so you got to do a different one.
I'm not going to give it to you.
No. I want it.
I don't care. So... Yeah, I think the DPS has the potential to get kind of streaky. Birdring needs to stay at this level. He needs to keep showing off this, ability to pop off. And Mira and Jaru need to hold that step as well. As long as that happens, I can see Gladiators making a really deep push for this, especially if they keep playing as well as they did this
Saturday.
Past weekend.
Yeah. Because we got one whole ass game from them, and it was the only map 5 we got.
Yeah. No, they went toe-to-toe with the Titans. And the thing is, I think the Titans figured them out by the end of it.
Yeah.
I think that if they can perfect more DPS looks and work on their ability to just adapt on the fly in game, they look really strong.
Like, they've got solid DPS, but keep in mind, this is also the team that dropped Surefour, who is one of the best DPS. I don't want to say he's one of the best in the league. He's pretty damn far up there.
He is one of the most... He has a very high skill ceiling, and he's very consistent.
Yeah. So I feel like getting rid of him was... all my LA teams just hemorrhaging talented players.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
I think Gladiators look good, and I think Valiant performed better than pretty much anyone expected them to.
Supposedly the people who'd seen them in the scrims said they were doing something cashing in the scrim bucks.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, generally speaking, scrims don't matter. Because, remember, at the start of Season 2, they said that the Hangzhou Spark were dumpstering everybody in scrims.
True.
Basically...
The Spark did play pretty strongly for first stage.
It's true, but they were not the best team.
That's true.
Not even close.
But, I mean, Titans. Let's just be real here.
Yeah, but I don't think at any point were they, like, top 3 in the entire league.
Nah. This is true. Top 5, I'm going to say. 5,
yeah,
6.
They poked in there a couple times.
Yeah.
But, so, Valiant, you have Gig and McGravy up front. You have Apply, Shax, KSP, and KSF on DPS. And then you have Dreamer, Lastro, and Rain as your support line. So...
pretty much all new people except for McGravy, KSF, and Shax.
Yeah, going into this, basically my opinions on this lineup was Lastro's good, McGravy is like average to above average, KSP's a beast, KSF is average to above average, and Shax, I think, also has a lot of pop-off potential. The rest of it was just a matter of like, I don't know how well they're going to perform, and I didn't see any real, like, major standout in, like, this guy's going to be a beast. Gig performed better than I thought he was going to. McGravy looks to have taken a level or two in Badass in the off-season.
Gig needed to stop being Bumper, though.
Yeah.
He got way too far forward and got singled out a lot.
Yeah.
It was... there was a lot of yelling going on at the Guildhall watch party for the Valiant. A lot of just, like, stop it!
I'm sure. So KSP was even scarier than I thought he was going to be. KSF looks better than ever, back to sort of the flex support position now that he's not kind of forced to be a hit scan. We didn't really see much of Shax or Apply. Backline looked great. Valiant played together very solidly. They punched above the weight class everyone assumed they were in. And it's a small sample size. Like, ultimately, I think they again played better against the Fuel than they did in their next game.
Yeah. But I also have to wonder how much of that was mentality. Fuel going in against the Valiant going, you know, it's a whole new lineup. Who are these people? The Florida rejects, whatever.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, when you have Shock in there as well, there's definitely a lot of... like, that's where the lion's share of your prep goes, in my mind.
And I also think Valiant might have gone in looking at Dallas as winnable and looking at Vancouver as, let's do it, let's go. Nice, well, we're going to do it.
Well, the other thing is, like, I think they played the same kind of strategy to it. And I think, you know, ultimately it's just Vancouver was able to be like, okay, what we need to do is not let KSP play and then really punish Gig, and I think they adapted on the fly better and were able to stuff it, whereas Dallas weren't.
True. Although, did you see what Packing Ted said in the interview on Saturday?
I saw that.
That was beautiful. For those who did not read the interview, they were talking with the Valiant about the game, and McGravy had a really good line about how one good team will beat 6 good players, which I can really appreciate. And Packington basically took the league to task for passing over players.
Yeah.
Specifically went after Dallas, while in Dallas, after beating Dallas, for their failure to pick up McGravy when they had several opportunities.
Oh yeah, well he was on Team Envy as an off tank, and I think on this podcast I said they should call him up.
Yeah, so just hearing him go off, because this is the team of the people that Valiant kept McGravy being one of the people Valiant kept, and a lot of Florida cut these people. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they came together and they did pretty damn well.
Yeah, and we will see how they perform up against stronger teams as we go on. I think they looked really outclassed against Vancouver, but...
Well, yeah. A lot of people do, though.
It's true. Although Vancouver didn't look as untouchable as they did before, just because new metagame, new people. They still look very, very strong and, able to adapt on the fly. But ultimately, Valiant, performed better than expected. We'll see how far they go when they face stiff competition.
And it's a good couple weeks till they play again. I think not until San Francisco in March.
Yeah, March. They have a lot of time to prepare for their next match.
Yeah.
Speaking of San Francisco, the San Francisco Shock. Frontline, Super Choi Hyobin and Smurf. We know how good all these guys are. Probably the best off-tank in the world, the best Western main tank, and a damn good second main tank in Smurf, who is, great to start in positions where Reinhardt isn't what you want to be playing. An incredibly flexible and dangerous DPS line in Sinatra, Architect, Striker, Rascal, and Ons.
Sinatra, MVP.
Yeah, MVP. A lot of great flex picks. We saw Striker look incredible. We had Architect, who had played Ana before, back on the Ana now, and looking sharp as hell on it. The sleep darts he hit with such regularity were fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was landing sleeps every single fight.
Which is not an easy thing to do.
No, but you have DPS capable of playing pretty much every hero at the highest level possible. And then you have Moth and Violet on the back line. I don't know why Violet isn't playing. Maybe they think Architect is the better Ana, and they want to have Violet in place for the for when they need Zenyatta.
Makes sense.
Maybe Violet just wasn't feeling great or something. We'll see how that goes. And then, again, we know how good Moth is.
Yeah. And we've had some pretty solid Ana meta going in.
Oh, yeah. So, basically, San Francisco Shock is one of the best teams in terms of just a sheer talent level, and they are, without a doubt in my mind, the best coached team in Overwatch. Their cohesion...
Crusty.
Yeah, crusty. Their cohesion is incredible. Their ability to adapt on the fly is unparalleled. They are incredibly aggressive and take the initiative in every situation they're in. They are the team to beat.
Yeah. And they made that pretty damn clear last season.
Oh, yeah. And then finally, the Vancouver Titans.
Also your boys.
Also my boys. Up front, we have Janu and Fisher. In the DPS spot, we have Haksal, Stitch, and Sominsu. And then on the back line, we have Slime, Twilight, and Ryu Jaehong.
Fisher and Ryu Jaehong as pickups, though.
It's one of those
goddamn.
It's one of those things where Fisher... Basically, my thoughts on Fisher was, one, if he can do well by them, if he can perform at the level we know he's capable of, it's an upgrade over Bumper on a sheer mechanical level.
But from what the desk was saying, and I kind of agree with them with this, I will be amazed if Fissure lasts for the entire season.
That's the thing.
I don't think he will.
That's the thing. And he said that his goal is to last for more than a year on a team. And that's the question mark. I don't think anyone doubts Fissure on a mechanical level. It's just a matter of he has either not gelled with or wanted out of every team that he's been on.
Because he did, what, half a season on London?
On it, less than that. He pretty much got permabenched in favor of Gesture, wanted to be on a team where he'd play, ended up going to Gladiators, eventually wanted to leave to be on an all-Korean roster, went to Seoul Dynasty.
Got benched for Marvel.
Well, the Seoul Dynasty is a lot of things, but
that's a really good way to put it. Seoul Dynasty is much,
and then
retired, and broke his NDA.
We've been over that.
Yeah, we have. I'm still mad.
So it's one of those things of if he can play to the level that we know he's capable of, and if he can
Stick the hell around.
If he can find a home in this roster, he brings a shit ton to the table.
Did you see his new picture? He's been shorn.
Yeah,
he looks so weird.
Yeah, it looks really weird.
Looks like a mugshot.
Yeah, with really short hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jonnu, again, we know how good he is. He's one of the best divas in the league. His other off tanks definitely need some polish, but in a meta where he gets to play diva, you're gonna be hard pressed to find better outside of Choi Hyo Bin.
Haksal and Stitch were terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Good lord, the Haksal Nanoblade.
Yeah, Haksal Nanoblades are horrifying if you're on the other team. Stitch, I think we're finally getting to see what he's capable of, considering how much of the last season he ended up getting benched just because the meta didn't really play into his strengths.
Yeah.
Where what he's best at is kind of the McCree and Tracer, and he can also pick up Reaper. So I think Somin Su is kind of the one who we kind of find as the odd man out this time, just in terms of hero pool, because he's got a very good Reaper. If it's a little bit predictable, he kind of goes for the teleport into the back line, go for the pick, Wraith out. He's a very good Zarya, so if that comes into vogue, he can be tagged in for that. He's also a very good Doomfist, which was kind of what he was known for before he joined Runaway and became their Zarya player. And again, we know that he can do McCree very well.
But if you want a good McCree, we've seen many reasons to stick with Stitch at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think they have a lot of firepower on the places where they need it to be with this DPS lineup. Again, Slime and Twilight are fucking gods, and Ryu Jahong. I'll be real, I wasn't sure in what situation you'd have him start over Twilight, but when they played him on Hanamura, he looked great.
Yeah. I mean, we've known for a while that Jahong is good.
Oh yeah, it's just a matter of he's been on a wildly uneven team that didn't necessarily have the structure to be
support
organized in the game.
Yeah. And now he's on the Titans, which are kind of a force of nature.
Yeah.
Something chosen #, something.
Yes. So basically, the one problem I see with Vancouver right now is they're reliant on Haksal to pop.
Yeah.
It's predictable, and if you can stuff Haksal, the team seems to flounder a bit. It's easier said than done, but ultimately you need to have more than one approach if you really want to be successful.
But I mean, in Goat's meta, weren't they reliant on Bumper for the same thing, essentially?
Goats is a very different story. And the thing is, Bumper created a ton of havoc and allowed everyone to pop off, but everyone else could, because here's the thing, Somin Su was statistically the second best Zarya in the league. Jonnu was able to absorb a tremendous amount of ultimates and do a lot of damage. Twilight was doing incredible amounts of damage in the back as well. Slime was amazing for all the displacement. There's so many other things than just that, where I feel like basically Titan's plan right now is, okay, set up Haksal. Whereas they have the ability to pop off on these other roles, it's just that's the thing that they find success, so that's what they kind of default to.
And there's going to be a point where the rest of the league is going to get used to that shit.
Yeah.
You can't one-trick it too long without everyone else catching on.
Yeah, and
especially with VODs and the ability to study.
Yeah, I think they need to just keep developing the ability for other people to really pop off and carry, because like you saw in the San Francisco and Dallas game, Dallas would have won 2 maps if it wasn't for Striker going absolutely insane in a couple last minute fights.
Yeah. Striker just kind of showed up and went, nah, we done.
Striker carrying 3 or 4 fights won them. If Striker didn't pop off on Oasis, they would have lost that.
And then we would have had a map 5 against the top team.
Yeah.
Like we had on day 1. Mm-hmm. You close, Dallas.
Yeah, so basically I think Vancouver, if they can set up other people to be able to pop off and keep their ability to, adapt to incoming plays and keep playing at the high level we know they can, they're looking really, really strong.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to another clash of the Shock and the Titans.
I think so. I still think right now it's them. They're like towards the top spots in the league. Though who really is the number 2, I think is less clear cut than it was.
Yeah.
I think Atlanta looks terrifying on paper, but we'll see how they perform on the field. And I think New York, as they work out the kinks that we kind of saw, and we'll get into that, but as they kind of work out the kinks that we saw in this first weekend, they absolutely have the ability to be the number 2, if not number 1 team as well.
Well, and we've seen Dallas go batshit insane, so there's definitely possibility there. And honestly, if London can pull it together, I don't see them as the number 1 team, but I can see them top 10.
I could see that, though I still would put them like 12 personally.
I think we've seen the potential. I think it's just a matter of pulling everything together.
It's true, though they looked so much weaker in the second game than the first.
They did. I think people bring their A games when they know they're coming up against a terrifying team.
Well, also, I think NYXL also was not playing their best because they're trying to adapt. Well, you know what?
You know what? We're going to move into that in a moment.
Do the ad read, and then we'll get into that.
On the Point is brought to you by Fred's BS, which now goes by Fred He Bakes. We have rebranded. We're bringing back some oldies but goodies. The website is now fredhebakes.com, FREDHEBAKES.com. Coupon code On The Point still gets you 20% off, and right now we're limiting it to just brown sugar buddies and browndies, but guys, those brown sugar buddies are unbelievably good. I know it's Girl Scout cookie season right now, but honestly, I'd take them over Thin Mints. That's wild.
I don't even like Thin Mints that much.
Well, then you don't really have a good comparison for this, dude.
No.
I would take the brown sugar buddies over Thin Mints. We'd have to have a knockdown drag out when it comes to tag-alongs. But I would take them over most Girl Scout cookies because they are that good. They are chewy, they are soft, they are wonderful. You should absolutely spread things like jam and Nutella and whatnot on them because, holy cow, good stuff. As always, everything is fresh, never frozen. Everything is made in small batches. You cannot find these flavors in stores. Much like Girl Scout cookies, you need to go to the source and buy from the person making them. Boy, there was a joke there and I really let that go. Yeah. And as always, if you are in Los Angeles, you can do pickup instead of delivery and get your goods even sooner. So head over to fredhebakes.com, use coupon code ONTHEPOINT for 20% off your entire order, and guys, enjoy those cookies. Treat yourself. You deserve it.
And we're back.
We never left.
Yeah, I know, but still. So, opening weekend, we had 8 matchups. First off, the Toronto Defiant versus the Paris Eternal, with Toronto taking the 3-1 win. Both of these teams looked pretty strong. I liked what I saw. Paris played very coordinated. They had had a style that they were sticking to. I think Toronto just looked a little bit stronger and a little bit more flexible, and kind of that helped them carry the day. Up next,
I'm just happy for my boys.
Not
gonna lie.
And they looked good. We'll see how they do against, tougher,
everyone else.
Yeah, against tougher competition. But there's reason to be hopeful based on what we saw.
Yeah.
So the next match was the London Spitfire versus the New York Excelsior. The NYXL pick up the 3-1 win, though London performed very well. They punched above their weight class. And like we were talking about, I think part of that comes down to London, being driven to compete and being better, being on the upper end of what people expected them to be capable of, despite having so many unknowns.
I think if they can pull together a cohesive unit, I think if they can keep their shit together, they will be a force to be reckoned with.
They definitely have a lot of upside potential, though I do think them performing so well against NYXL was partially NYXL playing against type. The casters mentioned it a lot, and it was something I was noticing as well, is New York was playing a lot more aggressively than we're used to seeing them do.
This is
true. And they were going in and committing to fights that looked lost in the way that teams like the Shock or the Titans do, and they're able to kind of swing it around. But the thing is, it's not a style that they're used to playing. It's not something they really do, and I think they maybe misread some situations and, shot themselves in the foot a couple times. Because if you look in their game against Boston, they were doing the same sort of thing, but they were doing it a lot more neatly. They looked a lot stronger and a lot more comfortable playing that way.
But also, Boston.
It's true, but I will say I think they played better as well as having a softer opponent.
True.
So up next, Gladiators versus Vancouver Titans. Both of these teams did really, really well. I was surprised to see LH Cloudy starting over OG, but goddamn if he didn't show why he earned that spot.
And our first map 5 of the season. And I'd say that speaks highly for the Gladiators because, definitely. Yes, and I know Hiley's on another team, because it's the Titans.
Yeah, and while I do think the Titans are still working out some of the, are still kind of working out some things on their own, or should be at least, Gladiators looked strong. Their tank line was going toe-to-toe. Their DPS line, I think, was coming up maybe slightly behind in a lot of exchanges, but they were performing really well. They were holding their own. Their backline, we know how good they are.
Yeah.
Basically, I think both of these teams have the potential to, make a run for the title as long as they keep improving and shoring things up.
Yeah.
Next was LA Valiant versus Dallas Fuel. LA Valiant picking up the 3-1 win.
My boy.
Yeah, the first half was very close, but towards the last maps, KSP was just going insane.
What I kind of love about this is that KSF's real name is Kyle and KSP's real name is Kai.
Yeah.
So, we are just determined not to tell these two apart.
No, and, I really want McGravy to get a name change as well, because...
Really?
Well, yeah, because I forget what his real name is, but it lends itself to that configuration.
I know Caleb McGarvey.
Yes. So
Caleb with a K, because we have hipster parents. No.
CMG, I don't know, but just
anyway.
Yeah.
There was much screaming at the bar. It was a fun match to watch, and also that Diva Bomb 6K.
Yeah. It was a really good pin from Gig to set that up.
It really was, and it was after a blocked shatter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was. I hesitate to say 1 in a million, but that was a rare play.
For sure.
And that was super fun to watch.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, they looked really strong. Dallas, definitely, I think they didn't play as well here as they did against the Shock. But, I think both teams put on a really good show. Valiant definitely looked really, really good.
Yeah.
Next was London Spitfire versus Paris Eternal. This is why I don't think London's going to be in the top 10.
See, and I think, again, we have opening weekend, and I feel like matches against the top teams are kind of the Spider's George of matches. They're outliers and shouldn't be counted, because everyone goes a little crazy when they face the top teams.
That's true, but London Spitfire was playing the same way, just way sloppier.
Yeah.
And their DPS weren't popping off as hard as they were. Their tanks weren't getting the better of the Paris Eternals front line. They didn't look like the same team.
Which is why I'm saying if they can get their act together.
Yeah.
But that's an if.
It's an if. That's the thing with this team. It was a matter of it's entirely new people, so it's, see how well they do on an individual level and see how well that they can be molded into a team.
True.
They have a lot of parts that have a lot of potential, but there's still a lot of, a lot to be seen in how they do. Up next, New York.
Well, real quick, you think we're ever going to see Soon again? He's disappeared.
Yeah, I think if it, if hit scan becomes more prominent, if they decide to do a more McCree-centric...
But they had XZ?
Yeah, XZ.
And he popped the fuck off.
Oh, yeah, XZ's scary.
On Widowmaker for a chunk of it. So, again, I question whether we're going to see Soon, which I think is hysterical because he left the Valiant for Paris, and now Paris is like, we found someone new. A bientôt.
Yeah, I think he still has the potential to perform, but like you said, XE is awesome, and I think you don't need to change much in that.
You don't switch horses in the middle of a stream.
Yeah. So next was Boston Uprising versus New York. New York rolled and smoked Boston.
I mean, we kind of saw it coming.
Yeah.
And after that was 24 minutes of dead air.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about that in a bit.
Next was LA Valiant versus Vancouver Titans. Vancouver with a pretty dominant 3-0. Not as dominant as Boston versus New York.
I feel like there were points here where this isn't... I hesitate to say this is one of those numbers lie match, but
it was definitely closer
did
than
perform pretty solidly.
Oh, they did. The thing is, I think
they need work. They still really need work.
They don't have the clutch factor that Vancouver has. It's one of those matches I want to rewatch just to really look at because it definitely was closer than 3-0 suggests. But it was also one of those things where, despite the fact that they were, close in a lot of places, Vancouver was just ahead in most of those regards, except for Valiant's initial attack run on Blizzard Roll. They were rolling on that.
Yeah. So it's not the same kind of 3-0 as the NYXL Boston 3-0.
No.
But it's still a 3-0 for a reason.
Yeah, it's still, a convincing enough win for Vancouver, and I think the margin got wider as it went on.
Yeah.
But Valiant definitely performed well. They definitely made a good account of themselves.
And we went from a day of every team at least getting one map to a day of 3-0s in a row.
Yeah, and then finally, San Francisco Shock versus Dallas Fuel.
Honestly, I thought this was going to be our fourth 3-0.
Yeah, on paper it looked that way, but Dallas really showed what I was excited about with these new signings. They showed what they're capable of as a team, and again, if it wasn't for a striker carry, we'd have gone to a map 5.
Yeah. And again, on one hand, you've got Striker, and on the other hand, it's Decay.
Also,
a lot of screaming.
Doha on Horizon, especially. He was going insane. On the Junkrat, his Sombra, his Sombra got shut down pretty effectively, and Doha's a really good Sombra.
But I feel like we're also not used to seeing Junkrat in the meta. It's been so damn long.
Yeah,
so the fact that they called that teleporter play was...
oh, yeah.
That was painful to watch, but really good.
Well, you would have gotten a ton of ultimate charge either way, but he was in the right position to hit them whatever they did, and
to just rain on their parade.
Yeah. So basically, San Francisco was more adaptable and then was able to clutch it out in a few key fights, but Dallas performed very well. I think if they can, maybe not get stuffed quite as hard as they did once San Francisco kind of figured out how to counter the double shield comp, and obviously it's not always necessarily them being okay, what do we, figure out the exact specific heroes to play, but they figured out what worked for them to break it. Yeah, it's one of those matches where if people watch it, like Reinforce said, hypothetically, the path to beat the Fuel in their current incarnation has been laid out. But if they can increase their level of play and just keep having their DPS pop off. Because the thing is, Dallas, one, had shakiness at the main tank position. They lacked an in-game leader, and they lacked a DPS threat that can just go off and carry fights consistently. They have all three of those things now. If it just comes down to them not letting themselves get out-strategized. If they can play like they did against the Shock and continue to improve, they look really, really good coming in for the rest of the season. But the thing is,
they have to do that.
Yeah, and Dallas has started off strong before.
You've been hurt before.
Yeah.
So we've seen 10 of our 20 teams field tested this past weekend.
Yes.
This has been an incredible level of play.
Yeah.
I will, and we're going for the low-hanging fruit here. One of the teams that we saw field tested was not Florida. But we did see Boston, who we kind of knew was going to run into some issues. And we did see London, who was a big question mark and who we saw, kind of crashed and burned a bit.
They had one good game and one bad game.
Yeah. But so did a number of people. So I'll be interested to see what the level of play is for our teams that we have not seen yet. For the Fusion, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Justice play. Yeah. Partially because I'm massively biased, and partially because watching Corey and Stratus pop off is just a work of art.
For sure.
And now there's a meta that lets them do that.
Absolutely, and I think it's a meta game that lets a lot of people kind of go to comfort picks. You have Reinhardt back in the meta. You have D.Va back in the meta. You have Lucio, never really left, but you have some people who can go back to the Ana or, play the Moira. There's a lot of roles that people get really good on.
So what do you think about the hero pool development, potentially throwing a wrench in that?
I mean, I like that it gives some, that it forces some flexibility in the meta. I kind of wish it was more of a hero ban thing than a hero pool. That being said, I think it's fucking brutal to give the coaches as little, awareness of the coming hero pool as they do.
Because how quickly can you practice those heroes if the ones that you were planning on running are suddenly unavailable to you? Like, I get this strategy, and I get that it's something that's done in, I want to say, League?
Well,
but it's done for games that have 40, 50, 60 heroes.
Yeah.
Not for Overwatch's 30 something.
That's one of the reasons I think hero bans is maybe something that could be, waited on until the pool grows further. The other thing you have to think about in terms of the prep time for this is the homestand structure.
Yeah.
They have the travel to factor in. They don't have permanent resources that they have 100% access to.
And away teams don't get to practice as much as home teams.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a matter of the resources to prepare a team for play is a lot smaller. And so basically what I think this season is going to come down to in a lot of cases, especially as the hero pools get introduced, is not necessarily who can learn the new meta the best and fastest, and who can, keep figuring out new levels of strategic depth to it. But I think it also comes down to just who has the best system, which teams are able to adapt on the fly, play well together, and not rely on necessarily knowing the ins and outs of how every composition is 100% best utilized, but just play well together regardless of what you do with them. And I think those are the teams that are going to be the most successful, the ones that can implement a good system that allow their players to be strategic, confident, and unified on the field regardless of what they're doing.
A good team will beat 6 good players.
And that's why the Shock are the team to beat, because they are the best coached team in Overwatch.
Now, speaking of adjusting to things, we had a 3-part broadcast. We had 3 simultaneous operations crews working this week. We had one in New York, which I actually had a friend who traveled up there to work with them.
Technically,
4.
Because Call of Duty League was also broadcasting from London, which is not necessarily the same team, but it's all Blizzard Broadcasting.
That's true.
And the and they all answer to the same people and are using the same tech and all that.
So just in terms of league, we had New York, we had Dallas, and the desk is in LA.
Yes.
So I'm sure, yeah, it's a thing. And we're moving on to a new platform, of course. We're now doing YouTube gaming instead of Twitch.
Yeah.
So whenever you're doing a new platform, whenever you're doing a new setup, and especially when you are doing mobile ops, it's always, you're never going to get a 100% switch over.
No.
And when you're doing mobile, you can't practice. You can prepare as much as you can, but you don't have a practice broadcast. You just do your best.
Yeah.
So that said, I was kind of at the point where every time something happened on the production level, I just kind of started laughing. Because it was a lot
It happened so regularly.
It did. I mean, there was a lot of, we're going to cut away from the desk, and they would show the little bit for the commercial. Overwatch League is brought to you by whatever the fuck our sponsor is. And they'd cut back to the desk, who were just kind of sitting there smiling because they knew that the camera was still on them.
And it would happen mid-sentence sometimes.
It would.
Like when people were interacting and doing their bits, it would cut away and then cut back like 2 seconds later, and it just... it was edited like a Tim and Eric sketch.
But let's be real. The best part of what is happening at the desk was Crunch Time, brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Because during this was the first match. This was Paris and Atlanta, and I know this because
Paris and Toronto.
Why did I say Atlanta? Because I mix them up all the goddamn time because they have the same color scheme. Or close enough a color scheme that my brain just goes, woohoo! Red. Anyway, it was during the halftime for this specific match where they introduced the idea, okay, and it's time for Crunch Time, brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. And they cut to the still, and it's silent. And then they cut back to the desk, and they're in the middle of a conversation. And we get a little bit of the conversation, and then we cut back to the advertisement, except this time it's the voiced advertisements. And then it's the still again. And it remains the still for, I want to say, a solid 5 to 6 seconds at least. To the point
it
where...
happened on the second day, too.
Yeah, well, just to the point where I'm driving and listening to it. Because if you have an audio jack in your car, you can do your audio through the speakers, and it's great. And I'm sitting here just wondering, did my stream freeze? The next time I stop at a red light, I checked it, and I'm like, no, it's still going. What the fuck is happening?
I had that moment, too, where I'm just like, oh, no. Like, there were a couple times where I'm like, is like, my PS4 fucking up? Because, like, I have my PS4 hooked up to, like, the big TV and all that, and I'm like, check? Oh, no.
It's like, is everything okay? Is there... No, I'm not seeing a little ring of death. What the fuck is happening? So that got to the point where every time something happened, or at one point in one of the later games when there was a pause, the entire bar would scream, Crunch Time!
It became such a meme so fast.
It was a meme instantaneously. There were video edits, there were GIFs, there were Photoshops. Like, it was absolutely hysterical. And I think the only thing that came second to it was in the middle of, I want to say... I don't know if it was the New York match or the match afterwards. I can't remember. I think it was the New York match, actually, that was getting to the end of Gibraltar, and it cut away for the Coca-Cola victory moment, and we cut back, and the map was over, and we're like, did they see 9? What happened? Did London see 9? And we never got that answer because there's no clips.
The Coca-Cola victory moment, there was never a clip after it. Anytime they did it, it was just like... Coca-Cola victory moment, and then cut back to the stage.
Yes, because someone hit the wrong button. And I think the victory moment is kind of like the thing in the football where it's the Old Spice red zone or whatever it is, where it's not so much, here's the moment we're going to highlight, it's here's the condition that is sponsored. And so Coca-Cola is sponsoring every victory. So they're going to show you the Coca-Cola victory moment, and then they're going to cut back to the team celebrating and shaking each other's hands and the crowd screaming. So I think the Coca-Cola victory moment was very preemptive in that. Like, that was not a button that was supposed to be hit.
Yeah,
Crunch Time was still the best, though.
Well,
fucking Crunch Time.
Crunch Time just fucked up the most comedically and the most consistently. It was just... it was fucking beautiful. And like the thing is, you could hear the people on the desk like Custa and Reinforce like start of day 2 crunch time, like
yeah. And when the casters were doing it, like everyone was just kind of like, well, we are here, we might as well lean into this curve until we're horizontal, because you can't really get mad.
No,
I'm not blaming production for any of this, because this shit is difficult. And again, no tech rehearsal, no dress rehearsal. You just have to go. It's the same reason that the audio levels at any given Super Bowl performance are always terrible, because you can't rehearse it. You just gotta pray.
The only thing is, those crews have had 18 weeks that year to do this ahead of it.
That's true. Not so much for our team here.
No.
So what Cheez-Its needs to do here, because I went to the Cheez-It Bowl over the New Year, actually, because Air Force was playing Washington, and we utterly destroyed them, and it was a thing of wonder and glory. What Cheez-Its did at the Cheez-It Bowl, they had big inflatable stand-ups that looked like Cheez-It boxes. They were giving away little sample packs of Cheez-Its in multiple flavors.
They need to.
They had cutouts where you could put your face in something, and they had giant cardboard Cheez-Its that you could hold for photo ops. Like, they went all out. So what I think Cheez-Its needs to do, if they can't have a physical presence at a homestand because they don't sponsor the homestand itself, okay, fine, I get it. They should do a Twitter contest. Hey, Overwatch League fans, wear your team's gear and pose with a box of Cheez-Its and use this hashtag. The best ones get X. Like, Cheez-Its needs to get on this. Because all of this is free publicity in a way it never would have been had it just been, all right, Crunch Time, sponsored by Cheez-It Grooves. Like, this is a meme, and they need to fucking ride it.
Oh, yeah, no, and, like, that's the thing. Like, if you can ride the meme, you are printing money. Like, my favorite example of that in recent memory is it's from All Elite Wrestling. Chris Jericho wins their title, and he's cutting this promo of just, like, everyone... He's playing the heel character. He's just running everyone down, like, saying, like, all you guys are dicks. Like, I don't give a fuck about you guys or whatever you do. You guys don't have like the respect for me. I don't give a shit about you. Nice fucking suit, idiot. And then just go and it's like, you know, like WWE champions, they get all this stuff. What do I get when I get to my dressing room? Oh, cheap salami. And then turns around, oh, a little bit of the bubbly, and holds up a bottle of champagne. And it just turned into a meme of just like people cutting in clips of him going, a little bit of the bubbly, to all sorts of shit. And he just was like, these are hilarious, keep them coming. And then he ended up selling a little bit of the bubbly t-shirt, and then a Chris Jericho branded Prosecco called a little bit of the bubbly. I feel
like at that point, that's when, well, not necessarily Dom Perignon or something, but like a brand that has champagne goes, you, please shoot a commercial for us. We want to hire you, let's do it.
Yeah. And that's what you need to do. You need to encourage people to do it and find ways to monetize the unintentionally hilarious thing that you did.
Like, I don't know what contracts are like in terms of advertisements and sponsorships and whatnot for teams or for talent in the league, but Cheez-Its would be stupid not to lean on this. They're paying all this money for this sponsorship. Whoever's running their social media needs to just be like, guys, we got to do this, push it through so we can have it in place for next weekend. And let's have the hosts do a bit on the desk as well. It's like, you know, Crunch Time, sponsored by Cheez-It Grooves. They're running a contest right now, da-da-da. So let's do the analysis. Like, it would be so smart. They need to do it because it's such good advertising.
Oh, it's such a good opportunity for them to just get a ton of eyes on the product and just get something viral going.
Yeah, and then some of the chats we were having at Guildhall were just, Cheez-It should totally market themselves as gamer food because, especially the low-fat versions, there's no dust. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to worry, like Cheetos, dust for days, everything is orange. Cheez-Its, you're fine. Yeah. That's fine. So I think if Cheez-Its does not capitalize on this, somehow they're missing the... Especially if, hey, go participate in this contest, people will go out and buy a box of Cheez-Its to participate,
Oh, yeah.
especially if it's you can win a customized jersey of your favorite team. Those are $100 easy.
Yeah.
Like, they need to do it. They just need to do it, and I don't think they will, because Nabisco as a brand has bigger fish to fry. But I really do think they need to do this.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, moving forward to speaking things we need to do, because we're already at like an hour and a half. Let's get into our predictions.
That's actually not bad for us.
True, but anyway, predictions. We have 4 matches coming up for the Philadelphia homestands. Houston Outlaws versus Florida Mayhem.
Outlaws.
Outlaws.
Like, how is this a question? It's, at some point Florida's going to pop off and prove us all wrong, but I don't think today is that day.
I think people are giving them more credit right now than they maybe do, but I definitely think they won't necessarily be like the absolute bottom of the barrel the way that they were, but...
Well, and Outlaws is a team that also kept most of its infrastructure and added people.
Yeah, and added significant upgrades, I think. Up
Hydration.
next... Yeah, well, I fucking... Mecco.
Yeah.
And then Jexay and Repel.
All good people.
So next is Washington Justice versus Philadelphia Fusion.
Justice.
I'm going Fusion.
Given what we saw from late season from Justice, having had time to practice the meta and picked up Roar.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're getting their shit together. I'm looking forward to this, and I think they can do it.
I think they can, but the thing is, I think Fusion definitely has the DPS firepower to match them. I think Fury on the off-tank position is so big. Sato, will see what happens with that, especially with new coaching staff to maybe try and iron out the coordination issues we saw previously. But I think Philadelphia Fusion's backline is so much better than Washington's.
I'm still gonna go for Washington.
Yeah, I'm going with Fusion for this. Up next, though, Washington Justice versus Houston Outlaws.
Fuck.
Have fucking fun.
No! Here's the thing. I'm not going to be watching any of these games live because this coming weekend is Gallifrey and I'm going to be ass deep and sinking in the charity auction. So I will just find out the results later.
I'm going to be home drinking bourbon.
You have fun with that.
Yeah.
God, honestly, probably Justice. See, now I don't feel bad because you're doing the same thing.
Yeah, but I'm not emotionally torn about it.
That's true. You're just cold.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give it to, I think Washington. Or actually, I'll give it to Outlaws.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Divvy up the percentage for a bit.
Yeah. And then lastly, Mayhem versus Philadelphia Fusion.
Fusion. Like, oh my God. So we have 2 matches where we're like, yeah, we're pretty sure about this, and then 2 matches where we're on opposite sides. So we both might wind up with 75%.
Yeah. With Washington Justice and Houston Outlaws, I can see it going either way, but I think the Houston Outlaws has the potential for just more looks because of their bigger roster, and I think, again, they have a stronger backline than the Justice. I think that they have a more flexible DPS line, even though Corey and Stratus are maybe on an individual level. I think Corey is probably better on just a raw mechanical level than most of the guys on Houston, if not all, and Stratus is just as good. Tuba, I haven't seen as much of lately, so it's hard to really say how he'll gel into things. The front line is kind of where I'm not as sure who has the edge, because I think Mecco might have an edge over Lulzish, though I don't know how huge it's going to be. And I'd say I give Mecco an edge over Lulzish, but I give Roar an edge over Muma.
So it's a matter of whether they do Elevote or Roar.
Well, they can't, they have Elevote, and I mean Elevote versus Mecco. I think Mecco has a slight edge over Elevote. They cannot feel Lulzish because of visa issues. He's not there.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay, then. It's,
And
it's elevote and roar, then.
Yeah, so we'll see how...
Good to know.
We'll see how in step they are, and also I think Harsh is a very good coach for the Outlaws, and I think, hypothetically, will do a good job of preparing them against the Justice to maybe come in with a better game plan.
We shall see. It's a whole bunch of... Again, we have 10 teams proven, and now we're going to get 4 more.
Yeah, pretty much, and I'm very excited to see how these go.
It's kind of wild to me how small this homestand. Well, I guess we had 2 homestands this past weekend, but each of them had 5 teams going.
It's just less games than we're used to, which on the one hand
That's a big part of it.
On the one hand is kind of nice, just because it's like you don't have to dedicate an entire day to like sitting down and watch and stuff if you really wanted to watch the whole thing. But also, it's, less games, and you have to wait more to see your favorite team play. And so that's...
And they're not down the street anymore.
Yeah.
Which is... Yeah. my new work is pretty much around the corner from where the Blizzard Arena was. So every time I bring up Overwatch League, they're like, oh yeah, they play over there. And I'm like, not anymore, they don't.
Yeah. Yep. But, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the Pacific Division roster reviews, the breakdown of the opening weekend matchups, our memeing about crunch time, and our predictions for next week.
I also predict that Tech is going to go much smoother.
I think so.
Because they've had the time to look at their own VODs and be like, okay.
And I definitely think some people are getting yelled at.
No more cutting to randomly setting up a screen.
Yes.
That was... And again... I don't blame Tech. Shit's hard.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's just a matter of if you want to do this on a professional level, you got to iron that shit out quickly.
Oh, yeah. So I think it'll be fine next week, but you can pry crunch time from my cold, dead hands.
Yeah, there will still...
My cold, dead, cheese-it holding hands.
There will definitely... There will more than likely still be some fuck-ups here and there, but I don't think it's going to be as much of a mess.
No. It was an avalanche, but it was such a fun avalanche.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, a weekend of mostly evenly matched teams, and also Florida. So that will be... I can't not, guys. Just because I can support them now because Bare Hands is gone doesn't mean I can't not go for it.
Yeah, and I still think on paper they're one of the weaker teams.
We'll see. We will see what they do. And that's basically what we're going to be saying until we get a chance to see everyone actually play. So, in April, we'll have an idea of what we're looking at as a whole.
Yeah.
There'll be some fun analysis in April. Anyway, that is all we have for tonight. I say 2 hours later. I'm Katie. You can follow me all over the social medias as well as on Twitch at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet.
And you can find me on Twitter at _rage_nerd. I'm admittedly not on there a tremendous amount, but
join us. That's where the crunch time memes are.
Yeah, but you forget that I'm not the most social person.
This is also true.
Yeah, but I look forward to getting to talk about all the new games next week. Figure out I don't know, maybe figure out where teams stand relative to each other a little more than we have now.
I mean, I think at one point after London took that first map, I tweeted Overwatch League where the points are made up and the power rankings don't... No, where the rankings are made up and plat chat doesn't matter.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of where we are. You can follow us on Twitter at OnThePointPod. I'm going to try to be more active with that one. But you can still follow us. And, of course, supporting our sponsor supports us. So head over to fredhebakes.com.
Buy some fucking cookies.
Buy some cookies and some brownies. They are half brownie, half blondie, and all goodness. And use coupon code ONTHEPOINT for 20% off your entire order. Do the thing, win the stuff, treat yourself. Seriously, though, them cookies, damn.
Legitimately, they are unironically really good.
They're so good. All right. Well, I think that's all we have. Have fun in Philadelphia, audience. I'm sure a number of you will be there. And in the meantime, let's C9.
Woo!